Welcome to Sunday Springboard with Melanie and Kimberlyn Coaching, where we help women recover from and flourish after stress and trauma. I'm so glad to be speaking with you today. I'm glad to welcome some of you who are members of my new group, and I'm excited to announce to you, for those of you who don't know, that I have rebirthed and created a new group called Resilience and Transformation. So this is a private group for women who have experienced any kind of hard, traumatic, or stressful situation in life. Of course, that affects all of us now for COVID. But anything that you've been dealing with that's been hard in your life, whether it's an abusive relationship, maybe you're in empty nest now, or a job change, or moving, or teaching, or homeschooling your kids, all the different things that might cause you stress. We are going to, we have this new group now. We're going to have a structure every day. We're going to have a different topic that we're going to talk about, that we're going to do. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think it's going to be helpful. Hopefully we'll make, everyone will interact, and we will make a lot of new friends. So I've put the link to the group at the bottom of the show notes. And so today we're continuing in our series on stress and trauma. So have you ever been in a situation where the situation that happened was so stressful to you, it just stressed you out, and the people that you're with weren't affected at all, or the other way around, they were really stressed, but it didn't seem to bother you that much? Why is that? Isn't all stress just stress? Isn't all stress stressful? I mean, if you're encountering stress in your life, doesn't that just follow that you're going to be stressed out? And apparently the answer to that is no. All stress is not the same. All the stress is not stressful. And it's not the situation that determines how stressed we are. It's our reactions to it and our thoughts about it that determine how much stress that situation is actually going to create in our body, in our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors. We're going to talk about that today, but first I want to back up a little bit. Let's do a little recap. Let me share my screen with you. Okay, so today we're going to talk about changing our reactions, but like I said, let's go back. So first of all, we remember that trauma is not necessarily a traumatic situation. Can be, but doesn't have to be. It is an overwhelming demand placed upon our physiological human system, on our body. It's demands put on our body when we are under stress. Stress is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. So remember that we've talked about that the brain is always looking for danger, always wanting to keep us safe. When we're in a state of stress, the body thinks we're in danger. It pours that fiery cocktail out, about 30 different hormones, but the main ones that we usually talk about are cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. When you have these, you might actually feel a rush. I do. Everything above your diaphragm is activated. You're tight, you're tense, you're breathing heavier, your brain is kind of foggy. You can't really think. You're not rational or logical. Things below the diaphragm are not activated very well. They're not, your digestive system is not working. And so this puts you in a state of what we call is you're unregulated. Now, we have these feel-good hormones, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. These make us feel comfortable. They make us be able to think. It makes us feel sociable, like we're part of a group. When we have the appropriate amount of feel-good hormones, then we feel good. When we get the fiery cocktail of hormones, not only does it do all the things I just told you, but it also decreases the level of these feel-good hormones. So you started out in a regulated state when you have an appropriate amount of the feel-good. When you get the fiery cocktail, you become dysregulated or unregulated. And remember, we've talked about different metaphors for that. So in our regulated state, we're like Bruce Banner, rational, logical. We can have a discussion. We can think and plan. Einstein, the unicorn. These are our good metaphors for how we are in our regulated state. When we are in that state, we're calm. We can deal with life. We can um, be around people and enjoy being around people. When we are in the Hulk state, when we are unregulated, we are like Einstein or the dragon. We are not being rational, logical. We are reacting rather than responding to life. And what we're trying to do in these videos is we want to learn how to regulate ourselves, get ourselves regulated so that we can respond to life in whatever way we want to, rather than just reacting out of um, this mass of getting ready to fight or flight that our brain has done by pouring the hormones. So as we've been talking about our goals of reducing stress, first we talked about how to regulate our bodies in the moment. At the moment that you're triggered and you're feeling all that stress, how do you calm yourself? That was 2 weeks ago. Last week we talked about eliminating stressful situations. We talked about not all stressful situations are bad. There is good stress when it's causing you to kind of come out of your comfort zone. It's stretching you, and we talked about how some situations you can't actually eliminate. And so how can you change those? How can you maybe create some boundaries? Make your interaction with those people different. Today, we're going to talk about reducing our stress by decreasing our reaction to stress. Like I said at the beginning, it's the way we think, the way we react to stress that makes it actually stressful. So here's our question. If we encounter a stressful situation, doesn't it just follow that we will get stressed? And the answer is no. Just ignore it. Sorry about that. Okay, today our acrostic is reaction. Those of you who, sorry, hang on one minute. Those of you who are my Celebrate Recovered friends are thinking I'm turning into Jim Baker because he does an acrostic for every lesson. But it actually is helpful to help me flesh out and structure my lesson. And hopefully it's helpful to you to help you kind of remember what we're talking about. So in our word reaction, the R is for our responsibility. We are responsible for how we feel and think about things. E, everything is temporary. A, our attitude makes a big difference. C, we're going to introduce the core disciplines, which is a concept created from my life coaching school that I went to. We're going to talk about truth, your perception of the matter. I, how important is this? What is the big picture? O, how not to be overwhelmed. And N, you don't have to be alone. So responsibility. No one can make you feel a certain way. Nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent, is what Eleanor Roosevelt said. So how many times have you said, you're making me crazy? Or he made me so mad. She made me so sad. You're making me. We have this concept that someone else is making us feel a certain way. This is not true. We are allowing them to make us feel a certain way. Now, obviously, they can influence us, but it's still our choice of whether to take on what they're giving us. Let me give you an example of this. So let's imagine yourself standing outside of an asylum. I like to think of an old-timey, scary one with the dark bricks and several floors, and at the very top, looking out of this window, is this person, and they're in an asylum, so you know they're a crazy person. They're looking down at you. They are hurling curses, and they're calling you names, and they're saying all kinds of things. They're blaming you. You're the reason I'm here, and you've done everything wrong, and you're this, and you're that, and you're this, and you're that. Now, as you look up there at that person, how much are you going to allow them to affect the way you feel? You're not, because you know they're crazy. So you're not going to listen to what they're saying. In your life, if you have a situation where someone is treating you like that, Obviously, I think you might want to consider, can you get out of that situation? But if you can't, how can you think differently so that you don't take on what they're saying? What they're saying is not necessarily true. You can think about it and check yourself and say, is what they're saying true? If it is not, you do not have to believe it. You do not have to believe everything you think. Okay, so it is my responsibility. Nobody can make me feel anything. Now, if you are in a relationship where someone is not treating you well and you would like to talk to them about it, this is kind of a good, this will give you a good sign of whether this relationship can be worked on and can be saved. Is if you talk to them about it and they're willing to work on it, that's a good sign. If you talk to them and they are not, it makes it worse, that's another sign. But the way we want to talk about it is we don't want to say, you made me angry, blah, blah. You made me sad. You say, I felt sad when you did such and such. So I felt sad when you forgot my birthday. I felt disrespected when you called me names. I felt disrespected when you didn't let me know you were going to be late for supper. Okay, different things, whatever it is they did, they didn't cause you to feel that way, but you felt that way. I felt this when you did that. So that can help you in your conversations with people and also in your head. Just remember, they are not making me feel this way. I am responsible for my own feelings. Now, this one is also a wonderful thing. I learned this in Al Anon. This too shall pass. No matter what is going on in your life, even if it's really bad, it will pass. The way you feel about it will pass. Let's say that. Maybe, I mean, if you're in a situation where you have lost someone, that loss is going to be forever. But the way you feel right now, this instant, will change and it will pass. So there's always some light at the end of the tunnel. And this idea that everything is temporary goes for good things also. So if you're experiencing goodness in your life and things are going well, this also will pass and change. It's not a bad thing. It just means if you realize in your head that this is now, but it might not be forever. So I'm not going to take advantage of it. I'm going to appreciate. So appreciate the good things that you have if your parents are still alive, if when your children are young or they're old or whatever. Appreciate the situations when they're good because you remember they're not going to last forever. And also hold things and people and relationships lightly. If you're thinking, I have to keep this forever, then that causes stress because any little thing that might happen that threatens that relationship or that situation is going to cause you stress. So hold things lightly. Just know this will pass, whether it's good or bad. It will change. When it's good, appreciate it. When it's bad, just hang on. It's not going to last forever. Now, our attitude is very important when we're dealing with stress. If you have this attitude of, I can't do this, I can't handle this, I'm broken, I can't deal with this anymore, I can't live through this. There are some things that I would have told you I could not live through, and I did. And now when something bad happens to me, I think, when those other things happened to me and they're bad, even though I didn't feel like I was, I made it through it. So remind yourself of the times that you've been through hard times and remind yourself of how you got through them. Talk positive to yourself and be compassionate to yourself. So if you are having a difficulty in life, maybe you had a panic attack or an anxiety attack, what we tend to do is be critical of ourselves and we think, oh, I'm never going to get over this. When am I ever going to recover? When am I ever going to be in control or whatever? And our brain just keeps on pouring out those hormones. But if we're compassionate to ourselves and we tell ourselves, I've done this, this has happened before, it's okay. It doesn't make me a bad person. It just happens. And I've lived through it before and it will be okay. Once we have the compassion, our brain stops pouring out the hormones. Now we still have to metabolize them, so we still may have to take some action to regulate ourselves. But if we can stop the pouring out of the hormones, that goes a long way. Gratitude is very helpful when it comes to stress. When we look around and things are negative and we feel stressed about it, if we can think about what we're grateful for, what good things are in our lives, what things can we appreciate. And even if you look around and you think, oh, I've lost everything, I lost my house, I don't have any friends, my kids won't talk to me, whatever, all these terrible things that are going on, there's still always something to be grateful for, right? Maybe you don't have cancer. Well, maybe you do have cancer, but you're not blind. Maybe you're blind, but you can walk. I mean, there's always something that we can be grateful for, even when we have a lot of really bad things going on in our life. So gratitude is really, really important. Every morning when I get up, I do a gratitude list, and I do 3 different things every morning that I'm grateful for. It starts off my day in a good way. So this next mindset, so we have mastery mindset versus performance mindset. You may have also heard it called growth mindset versus fixed mindset. So a performance mindset is a great way to feel a lot of stress and anxiety. So if you have a performance mindset, you're thinking, I have to do this perfectly. I have to do this great and perfect so everyone around me can see how great I've done this. And when you have that mindset, if you do it less than perfect, then you have failed. Well, that's a lot of stress. That's a lot of pressure you're putting on yourself. And so whatever it is you're doing, you're going to feel more anxiety and stress if you have a performance mindset. Whereas if you have a mastery mindset, your thought is, I'm always learning, I'm always growing, nobody's perfect. I'm going to strive for excellence, but you know what? Even if I mess up, it's okay. I'm going to learn from this. And it doesn't matter what other people think about this, and you want to know the truth. If you mess up, but you're transparent about it and you talk about it, people appreciate that actually, because it lets them know they don't have to be perfect also. So this mastery mindset is a wonderful way to help reduce your stress and increase your enjoyment of life. And we'll be talking about this probably more all the time as we go forward, because it is so important. So the core disciplines, I mentioned that before. These are concepts that were created from my life coaching school, which is called IPEC, which is the Institute for Professionalism in Coaching. I can never say all the words. There are 10 disciplines, and I believe these disciplines are ways that will really help us not react to stress so much. So we're going to start those next week. Awareness, acceptance, conscious choice. There's 10 of them: fearlessness, confidence, presence in the moment. Each one of these is really good, and we're going to take at least one lesson each time and talk about each one, and we will start that next week. Now let's talk about what is the actual truth of this situation. We always come into things with our own perception, but maybe the way you are looking at this situation that's making you feel so stressed is not even the truth. Maybe you walk past a group of people in the hallway, they're talking and laughing, and you get past them and they stop. And you think, oh, they were talking about me, they were laughing about me. That may not be true at all. They may have been talking about something, gossiping about someone, and they're embarrassed that someone has walked past them and heard them. Or you walk past someone in the hall and they don't talk to you. And you're like, oh, how rude was that? They just ignored me. Well, they may be having hard times in their life and they're focused on something and they just didn't even see you. We make judgments, we make snap decisions about what we make interpretations about what things mean, and they don't really mean that. So think about what is going on and try to decide, is this a true perception? Now, if you'll remember back when we were talking about stress and trauma, I don't remember which video, but one of the first videos, we talked about relevancy. We talked about how our brain, I talked about the brain is trying to keep us safe, but it also wants to save energy. So it's always looking for what things are relevant, and it ignores things that are not relevant, and it tries to form habits, and it tries to put things together into thoughts, into actions that help the brain move fast, make decisions fast without having to think. We have to think about things. It takes a lot of energy, and our brain does not like that. So remember the flower example? So We have flowers. You love flowers and you like to be around them and you like to smell them and they're beautiful. And then one day, one of the flowers you're around clicks off some allergy and you get you get a severe allergic reaction. You have to go to the hospital. You have to the ER. You have to get some adrenaline. I mean, you have to get a shot, and you have to. I mean, it's a stressful thing, and so now you have flowers, and then you have that flower, that one that you were allergic to. Well, if this happens a couple times, then you don't just have flowers in that flower. You just kind of collapse all the categories to where in your mind all flowers are bad. So first, most of them were good and one was bad, and now they're all bad. So anytime you're around any kind of flower or anything that looks like a flower, you're going to react because you're afraid you're going to have those negative reactions like before. This can happen in all areas of our life. If you've had some negative experiences throughout your childhood, throughout your life, then you may be seeing those experiences and be reacting to today's situation from your past. If you've had a lot of problems with men, you may think every man is going to do you bad. Um, all kind of ways that if your parents, if someone sounds like your parent, if your parent was critical and someone sounds like your parent, you may be reacting from your past. So think about the situations and try to determine, am I really responding to what is really happening, what the person is really saying, what they're really meaning, or am I responding out of an collapsing of categories to where I think everything that's like something in the past is the same. Another way to think about this is if you're a hammer, everything is a nail, right? So if you've had some bad experiences in the past, anything that's even close to that now, you may consider that bad, and then you end up feeling stressed about that. This one is really good too. How important is this really? I mean, I've gotten stressed about things before that later I thought, I mean, how important was that? And now I ask myself, how important is this really? How much is this going to matter in a month? How much is it going to matter in a year? How much is it going to matter in 5 years? Is this worth getting upset about? Is this worth getting mad about? Is this worth getting myself all riled up and losing my joy over this? How important is it really? It might be really important and you might be responding in a way appropriately for the situation, but you might not. You might be reacting to something, and you might be in the middle of a forest and you can't see the trees. So one of the things that I do for this when I feel like I'm not being able to see the big picture is I have a sponsor that I call and do what I call having a reality check. Can you help me figure out what is the reality here? This is what I'm thinking. Is this clear, or am I reacting and responding? And actually, this reality check can help you with any of these situations to get someone else to help you figure out, am I looking at this clearly or not? And overwhelmed. So how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So one of the things that we do to stress ourselves out is we get overwhelmed with a situation. It's like, oh my word, I'm never going to be able to get this done. Have all this done by this time, whatever. And we just keep thinking the whole big picture. But what we need to do is we need to look at it. We need to break it down into bite-sized pieces. What needs to be done today? What needs to be done this hour? What needs to be done over the next few days? If we have big situations that are overwhelming, we break them down into bite-sized pieces. They don't stress us out like they do when we're totally in the big picture. When we're seeing the whole thing at once without being able to think about what individual things need to be done. So it's interesting, back right before here we want to see the big picture, and then in this one we want to come back down to the little. Now, the last one is not alone. We don't have to be alone. All of this stuff is easier when we have help, when we ask for help in our lives. And there are a lot of different reasons we don't ask for help. We don't trust other people. Maybe we've been taught that, if you ask someone to help you, you're just weak. You should be able to do this yourself. Maybe you've been taught that, or maybe you just think it. Maybe you think if I ask someone to help me that they're going to think I'm bothering them, or sometimes, maybe you've been told you're just too much. Well, maybe you were too much for that person, but maybe you're not too much for other people. Find other people that will help you. Maybe we're embarrassed. We don't want to talk about the situation. Maybe we're embarrassed about the situation. We're embarrassed about what we did to get in the situation. We're embarrassed that we're in the situation. Maybe we were foolish, or maybe we made poor decisions to get where we are, and we're embarrassed and we don't want to share that with someone. And along with that, maybe we're ashamed. We feel like, I don't want anyone to know what I'm going through here. I'm just going to take care of this myself. And when we do that, when we hold it all inside, it just builds up and creates more stress. So there's all kind of ways to get help. If you're a Christian, or a believer in God, then God is always there willing to help you, and you're not ever alone when you have him by your side. If you've got friends, family, sometimes your family, depending on the situation, your family might be too close. Sometimes your friends might be too close. If you're in a situation that's very volatile and where you are possibly in danger, your friends and family the only thing they care about is you being safe. And so they may not be able to help you work the situation out logically, and they may not be able to detach enough. So you may have to get someone beyond your closest friends and family to help you. Support groups are great. If you're living with an alcoholic or an addict, Al-Anon is wonderful. Celebrate Recovery is a Christian 12-step for hurts, habits, and hangups. Anything that you're dealing with, you can deal with in Celebrate Recovery. They use the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, but they use them in a Christian viewpoint, and you can do them for anything, not just addictions. You could actually hire a coach. I would love to help you on that. Also a therapist or a counselor, depending upon what is appropriate for your situation. Your church, or maybe a different church. If you're needing physical help, you need food, you need clothing, maybe a church, maybe an agency, a government agency. Maybe you need to get out of the abusive situation. Maybe you need to go live at a shelter for a little while, and maybe you really don't want to do that, but maybe that is what you need to do. And many people have used these in other help sources of help to help them move past. Sometimes you're just stuck where you are because you're not willing to get help. And there are so many ways of getting the help that you really should take advantage of that. And here's another thing. When people who have decided they want to be helpers are allowed to help, they are blessed. When you help someone else, you know how good it makes you feel. It makes you feel wonderful, and it helps you get your mind off of yourself. So when you offer someone else the opportunity to help you, then you're helping them to feel better, and you're letting them have the blessing. So I'll go over really quickly, do a little recap of what we talked about today. We're responsible for our own feelings. Nobody can make us feel a certain way. Everything is temporary. This too shall pass. Our attitude, I can do this, I can handle this, I can do whatever it takes, I'm a strong person. The core disciplines, which we're going to talk about in the next few weeks. The truth, what is the perception? Am I perceiving this right? Am I seeing this clearly, or am I just responding from my past experiences? How important is this really? How important is this going to be down the road? Is it worth losing my serenity, my peace, my joy right now, getting upset about this? And how not to be overwhelmed, break things down into little pieces. If you need help with that or any of that, obviously, you don't have to be alone. Ask for help from whoever seems the right situation for you. If you would like some help from me, obviously, I would love to talk to you to see if we could resonate and do that. I've put a link also in the show notes where you can schedule a free coaching session with me. I also put a link in the show notes for the new group that I would love for you to join us. It is a private women's group. So I'm sorry, my men friends, if you want to do it, at this point, this is just for women. But anyway, hopefully you got something good out of this. Hopefully you will join the group. Hopefully you will have a great week and be less stressed And join me next week where we'll start talking about the core disciplines and some more ways that we can learn to react in a stronger, powerful, less stressed way. Take care. Y'all have a great day.